Hi, my name is Carson.
I'm Jordan.
Welcome to Take Two, and today we're going to be discussing James Wan's new horror movie, The Conjuring 2.
My name is Bill Wilkins, and I'm 72 years old.
What do you make of that voice?
Sounds confused. Is he senile?
The voice on this tape is coming from an 11-year-old girl.
The Conjuring 2 picks up where the original Conjuring left off, with Ed and Lorraine Warren taking on a case in North London. There's a family. You've seen that. There's a house. You've seen that. There's a ghost. You've seen that. Very predictable, but does it work? Let's talk about it. So this is a sequel to The Conjuring, which came out in 2013, directed by James Wan. I think the biggest takeaway from The Conjuring, for me anyway, was how it looked.
Absolutely.
Visually. It's a beautiful movie. If you just like look at some frames from the film, they're so well composed, and the lighting is so eerie, and there's lots of, like chiaroscuro stuff going on with the really harsh shadows and stuff. It's really, really cool. And in terms of the storytelling's point, horror, I'm sure this will be discussed later. Horror movies are not that, amazing anymore like they used to be. But what I took away from that mostly was the visuals, and it was a solid but yet at the same time predictable story. So it was all right. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't go crazy over it,
I enjoyed the first Conjuring. I have a really hard time focusing during horror movies. They bore the shit out of me usually.
Yeah.
Which we will discuss later. But I enjoyed the first Conjuring. It kept my attention rather well. The story of Ed and Lorraine Warren is pretty interesting. Even if you just read about it in general, it's a story I had personally heard about before even seeing The Conjuring.
Right.
But the original Conjuring did a fantastic job of reeling you into its universe.
So what works about this?
Yeah, let's talk about the good stuff. Quite a bit works for this movie for me. Would definitely say in the visual department is where this movie shines for me. I thought it was gorgeous, absolutely beautifully shot, very well directed.
Yeah, no, that's a trademark of James Wan now.
Sure.
He did Insidious, he did the first Conjuring, he did Furious 7, I don't know if you saw it. All of them look great. He's always been a visual guy. He did the original Saw, stuff like that. He's always been visuals. And again, he nails it with this, I think. The lighting's great, everything's really tense and dirty and gross, and everything looks like it's been lived in. So design-wise, yes. And I don't know if you've looked up some of like the original case files from this specific thing.
No.
They nailed how some of this stuff actually looks. Like
Really?
the house and the kid in the film. All that really, really great. I mean, they nailed it almost.
We need to talk about some of the shots and transitions in this film.
Sure.
Because it was
Very well directed.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's James Wan.
My God.
He hasn't made a bad looking movie, I don't think.
See, I love the way this film looked, and there were a lot of things, technically, on so many levels, that worked so well. And it was fantastic to see those things.
In terms of acting, performances, and stuff, there's a kid in this movie that has to work.
Oh, sure.
If the kid doesn't work, the movie falls flat on its ass.
Absolutely.
I think she did fine.
I did too. There were a couple laughable moments when she was
possessed.
But I think that comes
Yeah.
that comes inherently with having a older man's voice coming out of a young girl's body.
Sure.
It's very odd, and it can be taken for laughs, which kind of sucks because there is a little bit of unfortunate comedy in there.
There wasn't really a terrible person in the film.
Yeah.
Vera Farmiga, great. Patrick Wilson, even better, I'd say. He's always stealing the movies that he's in.
For sure.
He did with the last one, too. Everybody was solid in this. I wouldn't really say that there was a weak link, per se.
Not really, and that is appreciated, especially in horror movies, because they are usually a schlock
Low
fest.
budget.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Let's just get whoever signed on to do this for the lowest price. No, but everybody did fine. Visually, it was always there. Now we got to get to the negatives. If we're going to do like a generic, overall sentence of how this movie was, you can go. I know how you feel about this.
Fucking boring. It was the most boring movie I have seen this year. It was awful. And I've seen Ratchet and Clank this year. But then again, I like Ratchet and Clank, so that kind of kept my attention. But this fucking bored the shit out of me.
See, I don't understand that. I don't get that.
It could be a combination of the fact that I had just gotten off of work when we went to go see it.
Sure.
Which, has contributed to movies I've seen in the past that absolutely bored me. But what really bored me about this is that it felt like the story didn't have enough substance to it. And they were like, we gotta fucking throw all this other shit in that you don't care about. And I cared about this family. But then you have all this other, this second B storyline.
The biggest issue, and I think this plays into what you're talking about, is the movie is a lot longer than it needs to be.
Oh my god,
It sits at 2 hours 14, I think.
yeah, it is.
Which is, for a horror movie, especially today, is unheard of almost. Not unheard of, but rare at least.
Sure.
2 hours alone sounds long.
Sure. Oh,
I'm used to horror
absolutely.
movies sitting at 90, maybe, hour 45. Almost 2.5 hours.
See, like
2.25.
you think about movies like Quentin Tarantino's movies, right?
Sure,
They're
sure,
like
sure.
3 hours, but you know that the man can carry a story for that long,
Right.
But then you think about a horror movie, and like I said, there's not a lot of substance to them, so you don't have fucking 2 hours and 15 minutes almost worth of material.
A lot of the time comes from the tension in this. There are so many great scenes of tension in this.
Sure.
There's a scene, we're talking spoilers anyway, the painting in that room.
Yes,
of the nun.
that is a fantastic
It's
scene.
a great scene. And it works.
Very well.
And I think these tension-filled scenes, if you add them up, I'm sure there's at least 5 minutes of silence in this movie.
Sure,
Straight
yeah.
silence if you cut out everything else. But it works. And I think that's what makes these... Because I'm sure this is going to be a franchise. The Ed and Lorraine Warren story is a great,
sure.
It's a great pedestal for a franchise, that kind
Absolutely.
of thing. But I think if you look at that and think of it that way, it makes more sense. There's a lot of tension, and I think it builds up. Does it need to build up as much as it does? Maybe not. But it works.
I guess my problem is that you have so many scenes that are like that are such a slow fucking burn, and then there is a lot of tension and a lot of different scenes. But it makes me want more. As I'm sitting there, I'm like, holy shit, get to something that happens in this movie.
That depends entirely on your taste in horror films.
I guess so.
There are so many horror... if you like The Evil Dead from a couple years ago.
Sure.
Have you seen it?
I haven't, no.
Super bloody, super violent, super over the top and campy because it's in the spirit of Evil Dead.
Sure.
This isn't that.
Yeah, well,
this
of course
is
not.
this is a haunting movie that takes its time. It doesn't need to be nonstop. We got to do something else to scare the people.
But the problem that I have is that The Conjuring did this. The original Conjuring was also a pretty slow movie, full of tension, right? But it did not have the same lulls as this movie does. Because there's a lot of scenes in there that
It's better
feel
paced.
So, absolutely.
Better
because there are
paced.
so many scenes in the second Conjuring that just feel so unnecessary.
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's bad like you would. I
don't think
I wasn't bored.
It's not bad. It's not a horrible movie. I don't by any means, but it just bored me so bad.
Sure. So overall, I mean, factoring in the technical mastery of this movie, very beautiful, very tension-filled, I think, very well edited, I'd say.
Sure.
But you thought it was boring.
See, right now on the list that we have, I have it sitting at a 3.5.
That's
but
way too low.
the more we've talked about the technical aspects, I would give it a 4.
That's way too low.
That may be the case.
4 is way too low.
I would
That
totally
is
disagree.
completely shitting on this movie.
But
It's not a bad movie. I would reserve a 4 for something like Ratchet and Clank.
I give Ratchet and Clank a 3. That was
So
awful.
your original rating for this was for the same as Ratchet and Clank?
No. Ratchet and Clank was a 3. Conjuring 2, 3.5.
Oh, 3.5. Sorry, that point.
Yeah,
That
3.5
point 5 really brings it
matters.
up. For me, I'm gonna put it at a 7. Actually,
Holy shit!
7.
Why?
Yeah,
that is
no.
so high.
the technical alone. I wasn't bored. You were. That's a thing. I loved the tension in this. I thought it really, really worked.
Sure.
So for that, and involving the technical mastery of it, not a hugely interesting story, but what he did with different shots, the way he presented different things that you've seen before, mind you, to be able to present that in a different, unique way, I think that's worth something. So 7 for me.
I can see where you're coming from. I really do. But like I said, not my favorite movie of the year, and
Well, for a 4,
for a 4, I mean,
I wouldn't say so.
I don't know. A 4 might seem a little low, but I don't know. I need to be completely engaged in a movie. You cannot excuse a movie on visuals alone.
I think maybe you're sick of the horror movie formula.
Possibly, yes.
These movies have been made many, many times.
Many times.
And you got to do something really different to make
Sure.
it work. So, I don't know. 7 from me, 4 from you. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to let us know. Like, comment, subscribe if you do so choose to do so. That'd be fantastic. We're going to be rolling out more of these in the future, hopefully. Naturally, this is the first review, so we're not huge into this yet. We're going to, some bugs will have to be worked out in the future. But let us know what you thought if you're watching. So thank you very, very much, and we'll see you next time.